Welcome back to Canadian Justice. I'm Christine Van Gyn, and we're talking about the recent addition of the Proud Boys to the terrorist list in Canada. Now, Ms. Teach, I want you to, can you tell our viewers what are the actual practical consequences of adding an organization to the terrorist list? What does it actually mean for that organization?
So that's a great question. Yeah. So basically, when a terrorist entity is listed under the criminal code, a number of provisions of the criminal code come into play. So it becomes an offense for any Canadian to now make property available to the group. It becomes an offense to participate in their activity. If that activity rises to the level of terrorist activity, banks have to freeze assets. Members become criminally inadmissible to Canada under the immigration law. So there are a number of very real consequences to this listing.
Now, but Mr. Khan, what might be some unforeseen consequences of adding the Proud Boys to this list? Because I think you've commented on that in your article in Maclean's.
Yeah, I think it's important to sort of remember that the legislation itself, it does address obviously a serious issue, and the consequences that are there legally are important, and I think they're necessary. The problem I see with the Proud Boys specifically is here we have a group that operates in the open. There is a certain, as I mentioned before, there's grievances that they have. What I see happening here, the consequences of this is that, and we're already seeing this in reports coming out of the U.S. where the group is already splintering, going underground. We're already seeing potentially, as Brad mentioned, I mean, violent extremist groups sort of thrive on these sort of lost souls who wander around looking for a meaning and looking for a group to belong to. What we have now is a very large group that's been splintered, and now these other groups can very easily recruit from them. And I think we're already seeing that happen. The FBI has already said that they've seen the other groups like the Three Percenters, like the Base, go after the Proud Boys that have been sort of now lost, and they don't know where to exactly be. So I think there's a lot of this potential to grow these more serious groups in the process of trying to designate this rather, I think, not so serious group. So and also I think there's also an element of we saw this as well in Syria, where you saw a lot of moderate groups versus more radical groups, and moderate groups being sort of lumped in with terrorist groups. And as a result of that, those much more radical groups were able to recruit from the moderate groups because it just offered them that opportunity. And I think we've done that here with the Proud Boys as well. I mean, there are a number of other issues as well, but I think for me, that's the most concerning issue, is having this group splinter and what it offers to other more dangerous groups.
Absolutely. Mr. Gallo, maybe you could provide some insight into that. I'm not sure if you have any insight, but do you know how members of these groups are responding to the terrorist designation now that it's been assigned?
I mean, yeah, I've been doing a little bit of looking online just to see what NIF is sort of happening. But I know historically speaking, I mean, a couple of years ago, we designated Blood and Honor, for instance, and Combat 18 in Canada.
And sorry, what are those? Those are other, what types of groups are those?
They're also violent far-right groups that, so they were put on the list as well. And a lot of those members just rebranded and came up, and it seemed that they're now involved in other types of right-wing extremist groups in Canada. So my assessment is this may, splinter these guys off to have them go join other groups, but this type of thing also, from my own experiences in these movements, also pushes sort of the more serious guys that might have been in Proud Boys. They might say, okay, look, they've caught up to us. Now I want to go and join a group that's doing the serious action. As Mr. Cohn was saying, that some of these people within Proud Boys are maybe not as serious. And now for me, looking at this, I'm thinking potentially these people may go to a group that is already taking part in some serious violent extremist or terrorist group activity.
So do you think they thrive on this attention within these organizations?
I always say that these groups thrive on positive and negative attention, no matter what. They don't care if they're getting blasted across the mainstream media that they're a horrible group, whatever. It just gives them fuel to their cause, that everyone is out to get them, and that whole victimhood. That's one of the big complexes of their ideology to begin with. So this kind of helps them in some ways too.